I'm Monica Young, member of Cupertino TV Productions. Living in the Bay Area, we are blessed with very moderate climate. Not only that, we can go outdoor for hiking and many activities, we also come across many beautiful birds as we go. It seems to us that this area is popular for birds to stop. I was told that it was on Pacific Flyway, that is a bird highway of the West Coast. Because of the strategic location, Bay Area is the breeding and migration ground for birds. If you're not a birder yet, please join us today to discover birding. I have invited Mr. Matthew Dodder, Executive Director of Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society, to educate us on how you can become an avid birder. Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. I met Matthew at a birding tour at Reinsdorf House in Mountain View. It was a very hot day with over 100 degrees, and Matthew was carrying his tripod with telescope around. He was speaking to a group of about 30 people under the scorching sun. I was very impressed with your passion. Matthew, please share with us a bit about your journey of birding.
I started birding when I was a teenager, 14 years old in Boston, 1977. And there was a particularly rough winter with 4 feet of snow in 24 hours. So for some reason, I suddenly became concerned with the birds. Where are they going to find food? I'd never really thought about birds at all before then. So I threw out some breadcrumbs and some sunflower seeds that we had. And before too long, birds started to show up. And then eventually one bright red bird showed up. And I had to know what it was. It turned out to be a northern cardinal. And if you see a picture of it, you'll probably recognize it, but I didn't know what it was. And then the female showed up as well. And when I saw them together, I realized they're probably the same bird, but I had to know more. So I was hooked. I found a book and I read about how the males and females look different. And from that point on, I've never turned back. 45 years later, I'm still fascinated by birds.
Wow. So I noticed that you brought along some bird specimen and also painting. Can you tell us a bit what these are?
Yeah, of course, of course. So this bird here on my left here, this is a barn owl. This is a nocturnal species. It's a predator. And it, like its name suggests, it loves to rest inside of barns, old shacks, wood sheds, things like that. It's famous for its screechy call, which doesn't sound like a hoot at all. And it hunts only at night, and it'll capture mice and rats and mostly rodents, and unfortunately, because of where the habitat that it likes and the lack of grassland in Santa Clara County, we have fewer and fewer barn owls. But we do still have some, and you can occasionally hear them on summer nights as they fly overhead. So I love barn owls, and we've actually had them fly over our house.
Wow.
With the windows open in summertime, we can hear them calling as they go overhead. And this bird here, this is a Cooper's hawk. This is a daytime hunter, and it's a specialist in catching birds. So the Cooper's hawk is what we call an accipiter. It's a kind of hawk. Accipiters basically are designed for aerial pursuit. So they chase birds on the wing and they capture them in flight. And the Cooper's hawk is quite fond of neighborhoods and residential areas where there are lots of bird feeders. So you can imagine a Cooper's hawk might land on your backyard fence and be watching your bird feeder to see if any small birds would show up there. A little tasty meal for that. And then down here we have a wood duck. This is the male.
Yes.
One of the most beautiful ducks in the entire world, I think. This individual here demonstrates all the beautiful colors that the males have. They're quite shy, so a lot of people might get a fleeting glimpse of them as they fly away from a creek. They love, and like the name suggests, they nest in trees, in large holes, large cavities. So one of the few ducks in North America that actually breeds nests in trees. And when the young fledge, they jump out of the hole and fall to the earth, sometimes 40 feet below them. And they're so light that they very rarely get injured, and then they waddle to the water where they join their mother, who helps them find food.
Interesting. Where usually can you find ducks like this?
Stevens Creek is a good place. Any of our creek systems are good as long as there's plenty of cover. Lots of trees, lots of vegetation around the creek, and they can be found in various places like that.
Interesting. How about that painting? It
Oh,
looks
yeah.
so cool.
Thank you. This is one of my drawings. This is a
Oh,
whimper.
wow. You're an artist too.
Thank you. So this is a shorebird, fairly common, less common than some of our other shorebirds, but it's large. And I brought it because that long bill is so different from the other birds we've got here. So it uses that bill to probe in the mud and look for invertebrates just below the surface. It's more common on the coast, on the sandy beaches of our Pacific coast. But we do get them in the South Bay, and they show up in places like the Palo Alto Baylands and Charleston Slough and places like that.
I see. Well, many of us are new to birding. Can you tell us a bit more about how Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society can help?
Well, of course. Our mission really is to educate people about birds, and we do that through our education programs, our conservation efforts, and also just plain birding. So we have many, many field trips available. They're free. They're free to non-members. We encourage you to become a member. And we take you to all kinds of places in the Santa Clara County, and we'll show you where the birds are, help you understand how to identify them, talk to you about what they mean for our local ecology. And we also have Zoom programs, and we have videos on our YouTube channel. We've got tons of content on our website. We have a small nature shop too. So plenty of ways to learn about birds. And I would recommend, if anybody's interested, to stop by our ranch and sign up for a field trip. And we have field trips that leave right from our Cupertino headquarters at McClellan Ranch.
Wonderful. I understand you have a nice video to share with our audience today. So let us see what it is, because it contains the information you just talked about.
Welcome to Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society promotes the enjoyment, understanding, and protection of birds and other wildlife by engaging people of all ages in birding, education, and conservation. As we like to say, we've been inspiring people to care about birds since 1925. This is our headquarters, located in Cupertino, California, on the historic McClellan Ranch. I'm Matthew Dodder, the Executive Director of SCVAS. You can find our website at scvas.org, and there you'll find an abundance of information about upcoming field trips, events, classes, our speaker series with authors, artists, researchers, and adventurers. You'll also find our annual report, which describes our various programs: education, conservation, and birding. This is Carolyn Knight, our Education and Outreach Specialist, teaching a class on bird identification and adaptation to local children. Our Wetlands Discovery Program has been in operation for more than 30 years and takes elementary school kids to our local wetlands at Charleston Slough, introducing them to the birds and other animals that call this rich habitat home. Here, Mike Azevedo, one of our volunteers, describes the importance of nest boxes to our local cavity nesting species like western bluebird. And Shani Kleinhaus, our environmental advocate. She fights to protect the local waterways, local species like these endangered burrowing owls, and the value of bird-safe design and a dark sky, which are crucial to the well-being of our birds. Here, Carolyn Knight describes the nesting herons and egrets on Google Campus to field trip attendees. We have a rich schedule of field trips throughout the year to guide people through the many birding hotspots of our county. We also have an annual birdathon, where teams venture out to find as many birds as they can and raise money for the education program. Our Facebook page is filled with announcements and updates about our activities. During the pandemic, these gatherings were temporarily postponed, but they will resume shortly. Our Instagram page features daily posts and fun challenges for our followers. And our YouTube channel features dozens and dozens of fun and instructive videos, visual field trips, as well as our recorded speaker series each month. Members will receive our colorful quarterly, the Avocet newsletter. In between issues, members will also receive the emailed Avocet update with announcements and updates that don't make it into the quarterly. Members get discounted access to online classes, such as our popular 3-part series on gulls and a 2-part series on flycatchers. Soon we'll be offering classes on shorebirds and fall migration also. Members get a free copy of the seminal work on Santa Clara County birds, the Breeding Bird Atlas. As soon as our field trips resume, we look forward to seeing you in person, and you'll be able to browse through the many items we stock in our nature shop, from bird feeders to books. Until then, I'm so happy you're interested in our chapter. Perhaps we'll meet sometime when we're outside birding.
Wow, that is a very good video that tells us a lot of what you just described. And there is a wide range of activities you organize and classes provided. Can you elaborate a bit more on what have been done recently?
Well, of course, when the pandemic started, we had to cease all of our in-person activities. So that brought a quick end to our in-person teaching. What we did instead is we started experimenting with Zoom classes online and video material, which we post on our website and on YouTube. And we found that really successful. Successful because we could spend more time perfecting the material and also refining it and editing it. And we found actually that a lot of people took a great interest in it. During the pandemic, people were very interested in finding more out about the birds they were seeing in their backyard and thinking about something else other than the pandemic. So I would encourage anybody to take a look at our YouTube channel and see the material that's there. Sign up for one of our classes. We're beginning to have in-person classes now as well. We have annual events. We've got speaker series that people can come and listen to notable authors and artists and explorers and adventurers. So there's quite a bit to do at Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society.
Yes, that's exciting. I personally visited your retail shop. I think it's fascinating. And so now, like, the audience may want to know if they're interested in birding, what type of investment that they should make on equipment?
Well, there are two things that bird watchers really need to have. One is a pair of binoculars. So binoculars can be inexpensive or very expensive. You can get a good pair of binoculars for probably less than $200. But if you really, really want to see birds well, and you're planning on doing birding for a while, you might want to invest a little bit more. And there are plenty of places to look for binoculars. The other thing you're going to need would be a field guide. So this is a guide for all of North America. And inside, we've got pictures and maps to show where the birds exist, where they can be found. And you'll see different colors, red and blue and purple. That tells you something about whether it's to be found during winter or during spring and summer, or whether it's found year-round, like a lot of our birds are here. There are a lot of field guides that are available. This is one of my favorites. And I think we've got some images of other field guides. The Sibley Guide is quite a good one, too. So those are really the only two things that you must have to be a birder. You have to have curiosity, too. So you have to be willing to piece through an identification, because it's really most fun when you challenge yourself and try to figure out what something is. And there are 413 species in Santa Clara County. So there's quite a bit of discovery there for anybody who's curious and looking for something new and fun to get interested in.
Wow, that seems to be a lot. I also noticed you brought a very professional piece of equipment.
Yeah, that's a spotting scope. Now, birders that have been birding for quite a while just naturally want to see things closer and farther away, not just in your backyard, but on a great mud flat or way in the sky. So a spotting scope like that is very useful for advanced birders, and it does get you quite close. I like to bring it on field trips, because then I can have people who are attending the field trip step right up to the scope and take a look, and you'd be amazed how surprised and joyful people are when they see a bird up close through a telescope.
Yeah,
especially if we're looking at something like an owl or a hawk that's perched in a tree. To get that up close and personal look, it's even better than binoculars, but binoculars get you a long way.
So being a member, that I know that the society also provided with some really good birding guide for the South Bay, right?
Oh, yes, yes. So there are a couple of things, a couple of resources for that. One is a book that we produced quite a few years ago called Birding at the Bottom of the Bay. And this has been through several revisions. But now we've moved this content online. So we're saving paper and we're able to update it more quickly and at less cost. But we still make these available free for our members. But
Nice.
it's filled with maps and discussions about where to go and what to look for. And then another thing is our checklist. This has all the 413 species I told you about. This is revised annually, and it shows inside here all the bar charts to give you a sense of how common or rare the birds are in our county. So these are two nice things. There's also a book called the Breeding Bird Atlas. I'm sure this was discussed in the video, but this is a discussion of an examination of all the birds that breed in Santa Clara County, 178, I think. So this is quite a good thing, and it's free for members, and it'll give you very, very detailed information about where to find the wood duck or how to locate Cooper's hawk and all of that.
Yes, those are definitely very good guide. I enjoy reading them a lot.
Good, good.
Yeah. And also on your website, there are many self-guided birding areas. And how does it work?
Well, this was born out of the COVID pandemic, of course. And we also realized that our Birding the Bottom of the Bay book, the one that I showed you, the spiral-bound book, really needed a serious update. So what we did is we took that time during the pandemic to figure out how to put the material online. And we did that by assigning our field trip leaders to write about the places they like to go. So they described the destinations that they like to visit, the birds that they find there, and how they tour the area, if they take a certain path through the woodland or around the reservoir or what have you. So we now have more than 100 of those self-guided trips on our website, and we're just going to continue to grow that collection. And ultimately, you can access that on your phone or in the field. So you don't have to carry a big book around with you. And you'll be able to find, you'll learn from the people that have been leading trips there for years and years.
That's very interesting. So for this self-guiding tours, is it only the members can access the materials?
Oh, no, it's all available online on our website. There's a button right on the homepage called Self-Guided Tours.
Oh, that's
Self-Guided Field Trips, I think is actually what it's called. And what I've heard from people that I meet in the field is that they love those self-guided trips because sometimes they don't manage to get a spot on a field trip, or they want to go on a day that we're not offering a field trip. So they'll look at the site's description, find the map, learn about the birds in advance, and then they'll follow up on their own. And people really do love it. So I think it's been a great success for us.
Yes. Well, that's very interesting. So basically, for the members or non-members, they can enjoy all this tour information, trip information via your website.
Yes.
And then, do they also participate in bird counting?
The summer bird count and the Christmas bird count. Well, of course, if they want to, yes, we're always happy to have volunteers for the Christmas bird count and the summer bird count. We have a Christmas bird count coming up quite soon, in fact. In December, we have the first slots, so you might contact us and try to find out if there are any areas that need coverage. So as far as members and non-members, all of our field trips are free and open to the public. Members, however, get advanced opportunity to join, and they do fill up pretty quickly. So one of the benefits of becoming a member is not only you'd be supporting the chapter and our education programs and our conservation efforts, but you would also be gaining early access to the field trips and certain premium trips that are only open for members. So while much of our services are free and available, it's always helpful and always gets you a little bit of an edge when you become a member.
That's good to know. And like you mentioned that there's a nature shop in Cupertino. And what is the purpose of having a retail shop?
Well, the purpose of a retail shop, of course, is to sell items, but we also find that it's a perfect outreach vehicle. We've got many, many people coming through the McClellan Ranch Preserve, just pedestrians, just walking their dogs or taking a walk with their kids. And they'll stop by the ranch and they'll learn a little bit about Audubon and what we do, the conservation efforts that we pursue, our educational programs, our field trips. And more often than not, people stop in, they'll browse a bit, they might buy a field guide, they might pick up a checklist, and pretty soon they have caught the birding bug. And they'll want to become members, and they'll want to join the field trips, and they'll want to learn more, they'll want to sign up for classes. So for us, having the retail shop, it's not only the headquarters of the business where we accept members and contributions and all of that, but it's also a great outreach effort, and it gives us a chance to meet the public that we haven't met yet.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I fell in love in seeing all those books and artwork and be able to talk to you and the on-site administrative and learn more about what you have been doing lately.
It's a nice place to do holiday shopping too, lots of gifts and things.
Yeah, so we definitely want to know more about it, you know, encouraging the viewers to take a look. So you mentioned that you have done some classes in cooperation with the city of Cupertino. How does it work?
Well, you can sign up for the classes at reg4rec, R-E-G, numeral 4, REC.org, reg4rec. Now, we have arranged to do classes with the city of Cupertino that involve an evening session followed by a field trip a day or two later. So that's been very exciting. That is absolute beginning introduction to birding. So if somebody is curious about birding, but they don't know the first place to start, they don't know anything about a field guide or binoculars or where to go or what kinds of things to look for, what birders look for isn't just colors. We look for behavior, we look for habitat, and this introductory class will help people understand that. And it's been hugely successful so far. We had some folks attend the trip, and then the following day, several of them became members because they were so excited about what they saw. And I've already seen some of the attendees of the class on our other field trips. So it's a really nice outreach effort for us, I think, and it's such a great opportunity to collaborate with the city. They have a beautiful facility very close to ours, just 2 doors down. Big open architecture, really nice classroom setting. So I think it's a great thing, and I'm really hoping that we'll continue it past the new year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is great to know. My friends told me that there are some app that people can download and find out the type of birds they see. So can you share the information about this app?
Yeah, I think what they might be talking about is an app called Merlin, or Merlin Bird ID. So this is a free app that comes from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and you can download it from Apple iTunes, the App Store rather, or Google Play, and install it on your phone. And what it allows you to do is if you're, let's say you're in your backyard, and you see a yellow bird that is visiting the bird feeder, and we're talking about October. And what it'll probably do is when you put those 3 little parameters in there, color, the size of the bird, big, small, location, and the phone knows where you are as far as GPS and everything. It also knows what birds are likely to be seen, so it will suggest some options to you. One of those suggestions might be lesser goldfinch. And sure enough, I tested this out to see if it would work, and it worked great. So the app is called Merlin Bird ID, and it's free, and it's really fun because not only does it suggest birds to you that you're seeing, and you don't have to have any prior knowledge, but if you turn on the Sound ID feature and hold it up to the birds at your backyard, it will start to identify those birds for you just based on the sound, which is remarkable.
Oh, learning the bird language.
Yes, yeah. The artificial intelligence of the app is quite strong, and it gets stronger the more people use it.
Very glad to learn about this. Yes. So, like now many people are concerned about the global warming. Do you see any changes and impact on birds because of global warming?
Well, absolutely. Although I will say that the exact causes of individual species, it's very complicated. I would say that quite clearly global climate change is having an effect on our birds. And I could say that just anecdotally, from my personal experience, I'm seeing fewer birds now than I was 40 years ago when I began. And I'm also seeing less diversity. I'm seeing birds arrive in our breeding area earlier in the season. They're coming from the south. They're arriving in our area to breed earlier in the year. They're lingering later in the year. And I think this is clearly because of climate change. But there are other factors involved too, loss of habitat, which you could argue is also due to climate change. What I'm most concerned about is the mismatch of resources and the birds' arrival. So the way I like to think about it is birds arrive here expecting to find certain kinds of food, certain flowers in bloom, certain plants that are fruiting. And they depend on that in order to continue their journey. They're passing through, these are called fuel stops. So imagine that you're on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship, for some reason, decides to arrive earlier than your friends are aware. So you arrive earlier at the port, and your friends who are going to pick you up and take you out to dinner don't know that the time has changed and that the schedule has been changed. So you're stuck there with nothing to eat. That's kind of what's happening with climate change, this mismatch of resources and arrival times or departure times. And it's something that we urgently need to address. And each species that encounters or that experiences a change or a negative impact of climate change probably has a different story. It's very subtle and very complicated, but the largest single influence would have to be climate change.
Gotcha. Well, so in this case, what is the message for the public? What should people do if they are trying to provide more support and if they definitely want to pursue more on birding?
I would say the first step toward, well, we engage people in birding and the love of birds, the joy of birds, and we do that through our education programs and conservation efforts, et cetera. Because the more you learn about something, the more you care about it. And the more you care about it, the more likely you are to take measures to protect that thing. So my experience is if people see a red-shouldered hawk for the first time and they get a good look through the binoculars, they learn a little bit about the habitat that it likes. They're likely to fight for that habitat's survival, and in doing so, they're going to help protect the bird. I think it's extremely important, but it begins with education. So the more people can learn about birds, the more experiences people can have with their local birds, the more they're going to care about them. And it's that care that instills in people the need and the urgency to protect. So I think that's how to do it.
Certainly. I definitely think it's a good way to help to preserve the journey for birding and also protect these birds from having an impact of all those environmental factors. And we would like to thank you for your valuable time, Matthew. And thanks to the viewers for watching our program. And I do hope our viewers be able to discover birding through all this useful information provided. And please make use of the tools provided by Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. Thank you.